Hello, today we talk about pulmonary graphics. Many innovations have been happened in this era, not to just get into the technology, but it is for the safety because the safety leads to the quality improvement and that will lead to decrease in the mortality and morbidity. One such innovation what we are seeing is this pulmonary graphics. Previous era before pulmonary graphics, when the baby was put on to the ventilator, person has to stand next to the baby, bend and look at the chest movement and say that adequately ventilating or not. That was the era. Now, a lot of microprocessors have come which can detect sensors, microprocessors can detect what is happening inside the baby's lung when the baby is ventilated, both during the inspiration and expiration. So this is a real-time technology. You can see this graphics really. You can go to the trend. You can keep seeing the baby. But what is important? You should understand. Pulmonary graphics. When you see, don't rely on graphics always. It should always. It is a basically you need to have a knowledge and wisdom. Having a knowledge of pulmonary graphics is important. What is the wisdom? Relating that pulmonary graphics to the clinical condition of the baby. When you have something abnormality, you see, look at the baby. If the baby is otherwise comfortable, doing very well, you need to think of whether I need to give importance to this. So, if you keep on looking on this graphics, you may get lot of informations. Okay, pulmonary graphics is divided into two important portions: loop graphics, which is also called as closed curve graphic. Other one is scalar graphic. Scalar graphic is also called as open curves. So we all know that anything to happen, three important parameters. Pressure is required, correct? Second thing, flow is required. Third thing is the volume. Now, in the scalar graphics, what is I am showing here is the pressure. This is the pressure curve. This pressure curve, this is a flow curve, this is the volume curve. And if you look into this scalar graphic, all these three things are depicted against the time. So pressure would be the on the y axis, time would be on the x axis, flow again, y axis the flow, and then you have time x axis, and again the volume, you have got y axis and the time on the x axis. Are you clear? Now, what is this pressure? This is the pressure time. Pressure has got two important pressures, P double EP and PIP. Okay. Now, this PIP is preceded by PEEP because I kept phi as a PEEP. Okay, that is very important. Even at the end of inspiration, I expire after that, then still some amount of pressure is there in the lungs to maintain the functional residual capacity. That's very important. So it has got P part and it has got PIP. PIP has got three important components: trigger, limit, and cycle. The triggering point, again depending upon who is triggering. Suppose the ventilator is triggering, you will find it is a positive deflection. Suppose a baby breathes, that is actually, it starts with negative trigger. So it goes down from the baseline, then comes up. And the pressure actually that is produced by the baby is smaller than this curve. So, okay, this is a mechanically ventilated baby where you get, this is the trigger, this is the limit. Where is the cycle? Cycle is here, it is ending. So, ending of inspiration is the cycle. Tender, loving care, trigger, limit, cycle. Okay, this is what exactly you see. Now, there is another thing important. See, you have got, there is a, so the baseline is up, how much it is up? It is up about 5 centimeters. That is the PEEP. Okay. Now, this has got an area. What is the area? One, from this point of starting of inspiration till the end of expiration, This is called as, from this point, positive deflection, end of negative deflection till the P point, that is called as the time called I time, inspiratory time. End of this, see, inspiration is end of this, expiration started here. Now from there till again beginning of next inspiration, this is called as expiratory time. So you got inspiratory time, you got expiratory time. Are you clear about that? Now there is an area under the curve. So this area, you can see blue zone there, below PIP, below P, but it also includes I time and expiry time. That is the reason they use a formula PIP times I time plus P double EP times expiry time divided by I time and E time times the constant. If it is a square wave, you can take it as a 1. If it is a sine wave, it should be less than 1. That's how it is calculated, map. Now, you may ask me why all these things are important. Because when you ventilate a baby, you look at the oxygenation. Oxygenation is depending upon PIP, PEEP, again I time, and all this E time, all these things will contribute for your map. So that is why you should know that. Okay, are you clear about this? Now, coming to the another important area here is called as a flow. Now, if you look at the flow, it is different from pressure time curve. It is a flow time curve. Flow, it goes actually on either side of the baseline. This is the baseline. There is no zero. What do you mean by baseline? There is no flow happening. There is no flow. It is a zero flow. Now, one, you have got positive deflection, you have got negative deflection. This is the positive point, this is the negative point. This is the positive point, this is the negative point. So, what exactly happens? When we take breath, when the gas is flowing, you will find that this flow is happening in the positive direction, that is from the airway to the lung it is going. I am taking in, that is the reason the whole thing is becoming inspiratory. So, this is inspiratory flow. What you see from this point till this end is the I time. From the end of this inspiration till the beginning of next inspiration is your expiratory time. Now, when airway it is happening, it goes positive, then it comes to the alveolus, then it completes the alveolus. After that, what happens from the alveolus, it is again going back to the airway. That is why you'll find negative deflection. So, there are two curves actually, it's only one pressure there. Are you clear? So, that's how you this positive deflection, negative deflection, and this point I time here is called expiratory time. So, even if you look at this curve, the flow time curve, it has got the peak point. So, there is a peak inspiratory flow and then you get expiratory flow also. So, I told you how the inspiratory flow and expiratory flow is formed. Now, if you look at, I also explained to you what is the I time and what is the E time here. Now, coming to the next is a 3-dimensional, this is a 3-dimensional area where the air occupies the whole alveoli now. So, that is your volume. You can see this and this pressure, almost they look same, but what is the difference here? In this volume time curve, there is no peak. It starts at the baseline and again ends at the baseline only. So, this is the volume. So, volume time curve. Okay. So, on the scalar graphics, you should identify what is this curve. So, it is a pressure time curve. Why do you say it is a pressure time curve? What is this curve? Flow time curve. Why do you say so? Then it's a volume. So, all these three things are called as open loops. Okay. Now, you can also see the same thing on this also. For example, when I say it is a 27, it is actually the peak point is a 27. And if you look at the PEEP, PEEP of 5, from the baseline till this point is your PEEP, correct? And if I say that respiratory rate also you can count actually, so it is showing actually 15 the respiratory rate is how much? So it is around 41. So 41 for 1 minute actually, isn't it? So that you can also calculate on this graph. The other important thing is I time and E time also can be detected. If you look at this Ti, and this becomes the I time here, this is the I time here, and that's how the I time and E time also can be calculated. Are you clear about this? This is about the scalar graphics. Then we'll move on to another important area of pulmonary graphics called closed graphics, and closed graphics also called as loops. So now we'll come to the loops, pressure volume loop, and then I'll just put it on that pressure volume loop. You can see this is another form of pulmonary graphics. We call it as closed curve, also called as loop. For us, two important loops. One is pressure volume loop and the other one is flow volume loop. The pressure volume loop means if you look at it, it has got y-axis and it has got x-axis. Now, if you look at this x-axis has got pressure and the y-axis has got volume. Now, the peep I told you, now just looking at this point, I'll just tell you what is this line. So now we know what is y-axis, what is x-axis. Now, what is this line? You have got one line starting here and going up, and then again another line starting here and going down. That means one line started from PEEP to the end of PIP. Another line from PIP is coming down to PEEP. Are you clear about that's what it is showing? And this pattern is called as hysteresis. Are you clear about what is hysteresis? It's because otherwise, if there is no hysteresis, what will happen? One overlaps another. So that is not happening. So this is a complete hysteresis. It has got two important portions. What it started towards the peak is called as low inflection point. The one which is high is called high inflection point. So you got two important inflection points, whereas the one towards the peak, you should be careful. Okay, because one, if you leave more high inflection point, will cause hyper distension. If you go to the lower peak towards the peak, it will cause low inflection point where adequate compliance has not happened. So you need to keep the compliance between this properly. Okay. Then this is called inspiratory part. That is from the PEEP to PIP. Then from there, PIP to PP you got, that is the expiratory. So you got inspiratory and the expiratory. Are you clear about that? Now, if you look at this is a smooth line. Sometimes you can also look at work of breathing. One of the important components of work of breathing is resistance, correct? When there is resistance, too much resistance, maybe then just looking at this graph, you can know that is there inspiratory resistance or expiratory resistance. If this bulges, this part, that is expiratory part bulges, means it is expiratory resistance. If inspiratory part bulges, it becomes inspiratory resistance. So you need to know what is this curve. And another important point is, especially when you have a baby, preterm baby, respiratory distress syndrome, surfactant deficiency, the curve moves towards the x-axis. When it moves towards the x-axis means it is atelectasis. Then what you should do is you give surfactant. This curve goes straight. So as long as it is going towards the x-axis, atelectasis, if it straightens up after the surfactant, that means it is adequately ventilated, it is good compliance. So it goes either this way in atelectasis or in nicely surfactant alveoli. If you look into that, the curve goes like this towards y-axis. But what's happening? Suppose a resident gives surfactant. If he fails to decrease the PIP, I time, what happens? It may cause over distension. When it causes over distension, there is an entity called as C20 by C ratio in the loop. If you look at C20 means the last 20% of the compliance should be divided by total compliance. and it should be 1 and above. Anything less than 1, it indicates over distension. That also can be detected. So a nurse who is looking after the baby, if she knows about these points, she can tell that, she can alert, you are actually less than 1, please come and reduce PIP. That is what it is going to help us. Are you clear about this? Now, after knowing this volume pressure loop, there is another important thing you should know is a flow volume loop. We'll go to the flow volume loop. I'll just go to the, again, loops. See, this is the, so what is the difference between pressure volume? Here I told you volume was on the y-axis there, but here it is the flow and the volume would be here on the x-axis. So you can see volume, flow. Now it has got again curve. This curve, if you look into that, it starts from 0. That means there's no flow happening. There's no flow happening. Then flow started to happen, but it comes and meets the same point. This is very, very important. Okay, it's coming, but if you look at the pressure volume low, there also it comes and said, but what is the point? It is not coming to 0. It is coming at the peak level, 5, 6, whatever you keep. So that's why you'll find this is what you see. Whereas this is the inspiration and this is the expiration happening. So this is what you see here, the peak inspiratory and then peak expiratory flow you can detect on this curve. So, and very important is both comes and then joins is 0. Are you clear?